went differently. But when I actually went on to this trip to Kenya, which was about 10 days in total, 10 days, Errol was the most compassionate and most, like, I mean, how do I put it? Like, he would never get annoyed. Like, there was this incident where he was stopped 5 times at the because of his rings and all of that. At the airport, he was stopped 5 times by a policeman. I get stopped once and I get annoyed. He got 5, and every time he'll go back with all his, like, you know how he's bulky. He'll go back and he smiles and walks through again, and then he's sent back. And then eventually, after which they let him go. He finally looks at them. Are you happy, gentlemen, now? And I said, oh God, like, I didn't know this man at all these years. And then he quietly came down and sat and wore his shoes and everything was asked him to take it. So Errol is this person I realize is more I know about him, the more amazes me that he speaks to everyone. He knows the guy outside on the street. He has a connection with the guy who sells the junk. He has a connection with Lalu. He has a connection with all the teachers. Like, he's been one person who's been talking to Manu Bhai throughout because he understands that there's nobody to talk to him. So, like, a very compassionate person. Of course, all of you have seen him taking pictures and doing braiding constantly. So that's something that I don't need to really explain to you guys. But what I understood about him is that there is a lot of stories that we haven't actually understood about him, haven't heard. So I would be very, very happy, and I'm honored, Errol, that I get to speak to you and I get to share your story to people. So I mean, besides many other things that I know about you, I also know that you're a Goan heart, born and actually grew in 70s. So how much 70s is in you?
Well, I was born in the infamous Godhra, which is the Panchmal. If you remember the train burning incident in Godhra, so that's Panchmal. So my grandfather was in the railways, and so was my father and my uncles. And I think my dad got transferred to Ahmedabad in about when I was about 3 or 4, and so ancestrally we could connect with Goa, but once I tried to track the family tree, and the ancestry goes back to Vasco da Gama, and my ancestors probably came with Vasco da Gama on a ship, and so my dad was, let's say, from the Goan ancestry, but brought up in Gujarat, and so was I. So I would like to consider myself a Gujarati with non-Gujarati traits, if you can read between the lines. Yeah. Anuj mentioned the compassion bit. I think these are qualities which I've inherited from my mother, who was also a Goan, but she came from Karachi, which was at that point West Pakistan. And I think just watching her treat people, the household people, and I think the compassion bit comes from her, and the discipline of constantly attending to or trying to achieve perfection, I think comes from my dad. He was in the railways, and he always got the prizes for punctuality, for fuel saving. So I think a good combination of two parents, and then I think schooling happened, which I quite didn't enjoy, but one went through schooling till the 11th standard in the St. Xavier's school, and at that point we had two schools, the St. Xavier's at Mirzapur, and 8th class onwards was Loyola Hall, which was Memnagar. And the mode of transport was first a bus, the MPS bus, and I always got mistaken for an adult because of my increase in height, so I could never convince the bus conductor that I was eligible for a student ticket, which was 5 paisa. But soon I acquired a bicycle as a gift, as a birthday gift, and then there was no looking back. I think on an average, my bicycling was about at least 30 to 35 kilometers. And then NID happened, I would say, by divine accident. We are the generation of the 60s. We grew up with the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Jethro Tulls, the Pink Floyd. And after the 11th standard, one of the friends' father took an interest in us brats, I would say. And one night he decided to counsel each of us separately in his room. And this was, I think a turning point. Colonel Khanna was his name, and he asked me, what my plans were to do after the 11th standard. So I said maybe I'll make an application to the Baroda Fine Arts College and maybe do painting or maybe architecture. So he suggested that I should look at a place called the National Institute of Design, and his daughter, who was the friend at whose house the party was, she was undergoing a 2-month or a month's trial program before the first batch of the SLPEP was to start. So we fixed up a time. I met Nalini Khan at the gate, and I think she changed my life forever. She introduced me to everybody who really mattered, who were conducting the short workshop. And soon I was filling in the form. And as soon as I think they got 5 forms, they called people. And morning was the test, afternoon was the personal interview. And the next was, the call letter that, we granted admission at the National Institute of Design. I had grown up in Ahmedabad, but I had never ever crossed Sardar Bridge. My bridge was the Nehru Bridge. And all the late night gatherings were at Nehru Bridge. So here was a new route. And I don't know if all of you all have experienced what I call the wow factor, which continues even till date. I think anybody who walks into the gates of NID wants to be here, and I've seen that later when I was part of admission tests and I rejoined in '84. And I was very clear that I wanted to do textiles. I grew up beside a textile mill where the railway colony was, and climbing up to the tallest neem tree, one always wanted to know what was beyond that wall. And one did enter the mill premises along with other friends whose fathers were working in the loom shed. So one had a little idea, but I think textile design was an established profession. And as soon as one joined NID, I think we got to know that the Calico Mill, which was just on the other side of the river bank of NID, had a full-fledged design studio. A batch of designers were sent to NID for training, and I think there was a fluidity in those days that while there was a skeleton timetable, it was a smaller number, so we meandered around in departments, and I think I would consider the first 3 batches to be the luckiest because we were handled with kid gloves, and I think the faculty and Kumar Vyas, who had started this SLPP program, School Leavers Professional Education Program, which was 5.5 years in those days. I think they also wanted it to be a success. So all encouragement was given. In some cases, material was given to me because I really couldn't afford money for materials. So I would like to thank all my teachers who have been supportive as a student and later when I rejoined in '84 as a faculty. I would credit our teacher Helena, who was from Finland, who introduced us and me, I would say, to Indian textiles. Having grown up in a city, one really hadn't visited a village. So she would, organize these field trips to Kutch Bhuj and practically tie us with a rope, pay for our train tickets, pay for our food, and introduce us to our own textiles. And the story comes full circle because there was a trip which she made along with some of the students in 1975 when they looked at camel bells in Jaisalmer, somewhere.
Yeah. Good, sorry, go ahead.
So that's where they noticed camel bells. Somehow I had not made that trip along, but years later when I came back in '84, I was a little restless, anxiety built up because I had stepped down from an export company's job. I was with the Tata Exports leather division in Devas. Before Tata's, I was 3 years in a textile mill. Bharat Vijay was on the outskirts of Ahmedabad. And I got all my limelight, all my, I would say, applause. But I reached a point of saturation. It was, one more print design and one more jacquard design and one more, print and weave that you see on people.
So, Errol, just a question. Sorry, it was a quickly bad idea to shift that side. So, Errol, just to go back to before we go to the story of you going to Jaisalmer. How was NID like? Was there? Did you live in a hostel? Did you?
No, at the point I joined in 1970, there were no hostels. There were a few little accommodation provided to the girls, which was what is today near the main gate, and the hostels came up much later. So I, being a localite, I would return home every night, and it was barely to just sort of little rest, and next morning back to work.
And the studios were open all night.
Well, to start with, the studios were open, I would say, round the clock. There was no, I think, shuttering the shutters never got closed. We practically lived in the building. Yeah. And I think somewhere maybe around 73 or 74, then came all these things of light permission and all-night permission and all that. But we wrangled our way. We would keep the sort of the latch of the sliding windows open and sneak in. And then the guard.
Which we did as well. Which we all of us.
So I think we've done all that you probably think you are doing for the first time. We were at, I think, our naughtiest best, and we did get hauled up. We once hit all the sort of stools in the loo, which was still being built, which is on the second floor. And then there was an emergency meeting which was called, and there were nearly a police report to be made. And then we went and confessed to Kumar Vyas that no, there was no theft. We've just hidden the stools in the loo. And he was very kind and gentle, and he sort of didn't take us to task. But the various pranks, filling in the keyholes of the office cabins with plaster of Paris, and next morning
whose office door did you fill?
All on the second floor, which is the sound studio, and everybody's office who was on the second floor. We just got plaster of Paris. The plaster of Paris was available very freely, and we knew that it is quite a quick setting. So next morning, and as soon as faculty went to the key just wouldn't go in, and we would sort of watch from the corner, and eventually, of course, we never owned up that ever. The stools bit, yes, we did own up and confess that we'd done it. But we also did, I think, fun things like there used to be what I call the half cabins. You could sort of, with my height, overlook into another cabin of a faculty. So we got to know that it was the birthday of the lady who was in charge of us, Mrs. Anuj Sharma. And all of us young guys were, I think, in love with her. So we decided to fill her whole cabin with balloons. And next morning, as soon as she opened the door, there was lots of balloons trickling out. But then there were other people who we were very upset with, like Mr. Bhagwat, who was a landscape architect. And he used to yell at the top of his lungs when he was making a phone call. And we filled in his cabin with, or maybe Dashrath's cabin with garbage bins which were made of bamboo in those days. So we've been good to some, and we've been, I would say, wicked to some also.
So, but were people scared of you? You had this height, and you were lanky. I saw some pictures.
I always had this advantage of being tallest, and but I mean, we also had fun. Like Padmini Balram, if you've known her, she's probably about 5 feet, and we have danced together. And Padmini Balram was made to stand on the stool. So we've had fun, and yes, the height does put off people, and
or does it make people come to you? Were you always like
Well, I got complimented by VM Parmar for somewhere about my looks, that he said that if ever a movie is made, the young Umar Sharif would be you. Because I had these features which probably has a touch of the Egyptian actor Umar Sharif. And while I had black hair, there was a streak of white, which is of course now disappeared. So of course, I could have probably made the young Umar Sharif if anybody made an autobiographical film. And VM Parmar, I think right till his retirement while he was at NID, always complimented me as being the Umar Sharif. Yeah, but being tall, let me tell you, can also be a little painful. Getting trousers lengths, shirt sizes in aircraft seats, buttses.
I have always seen you wear these shirts, which has you're the only one I see who, displays the name of the Cadillac tailor.
Well, I took a liking to Rambai, and I think one day I said, instead of putting the label in the back of the collar, which nobody can see, why don't you put it right in front of the pocket, yeah? And he was shy and hardly was willing. I said, no, see, I think you need to, I would like to publicize your shop. And he did it, and just about everybody noticed it, I know. And of course, there are many other people.
No, that guy gets the most amount of shirts stitched now, so definitely it worked for him. But so what was your favorite, do you have a favorite garment that you were like your 70s child? So I'm guessing it's...
Well, it was always denim as a fabric, and indigo blue was a favorite of mine. So I just went to Agamtiwala and bought thans of it. And the tailor would get a little, a little uneasy that you just want one color and one style. And here I must share an experience which one of my students, Tanaz Irani, one day very sort of neatly comes up to me and said, Errol, do you have only one shirt? And I said, yes. And then, of course, the next day she probably noticed that it was again a blue denim shirt. An indigo blue shirt. And I said, Tanaz, look a little closely, because every day the shirt has a little difference somewhere on the collar or the cuffs or something. So I said, my joy is when, the sort of pack of shirts come back from the ironing. There's a subtle change of, the blues happening, and that's what I like. And I think it makes it easier for the tailor. It makes it easier for me that I don't have to look whether I'm going to wear a blue or a black. Today I'm wearing black, which is a little unusual.
But it's also almost blue also if you look at it. No, but I always wonder, Errol, this one, before I forget, it's in between of the whole conversation. You have an ability, a knack of changing size. Like I have seen you suddenly becoming putting a lot of weight, and then you suddenly become thin. And you put on weight again and you become thin again. What happens? How do you do
that? In my lifetime of 68, and now I'll be 69 in December, it's happened 4 times. Right now, I would say I'm on the higher side. And the in-between gap is about 14 to 15 kilos. And I have never ever checked with a doctor. I know when the decline starts, and I lose about 500 grams a day. So within a month, that reduction happens, and I know the reduction has started because the belt and the notches.
So it has started now.
No, right now it's on the high side. So I've got waistline, and a favorite of mine is Levi's. I've tried the others, Wranglers, Lee's, and everything.
So what do you do when you become thin? Where does that go? You have 2 sets of.
No, I have waist size 28, which was. Earlier, and right now it's 38. So there's, I'm not thrown away the Levi's, they're still there.
10 waist size.
Yeah.
Wow, this is, because I've always wondered, I didn't think about the waist size. Yes.
Yeah. So, I've not, because, anyway, the jeans are expensive, and I know that they'll come in handy. But this has been analyzed by my, colleague and friend, Shaktivel. He says it's probably due to mental fatigue and, stress. And now I look back on the 4 times that it has happened, he probably had hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
So do you take stress?
I think I take stress on behalf of others.
You should look around you. There's all those people here. It's like they don't need. They can. They're willing to take stress. No, nobody. Yeah. I mean, you should.
No. I think I sort of empathize with the less fortunate, and I think this quality I think is genetic. It runs in the family. Probably my mother's genetic quality. But yes, I know I shouldn't worry, and there's very little probably I can do. But like if I see a sort of person standing at Lalu's whatever kitli in the morning, and I know that the guy doesn't have coins enough for a chai, I would just signal Lalu, and we've got this non-verbal communication happening between Ramesh Bhai, Lalu, and me. And a tea would appear in that stranger's hand, and I would settle the bill when I've been going, or bhajiyas or whatever.
No, but I've seen you. I've seen you like on the chai gate often. Like you still during Corona also. You like once it got over, you started coming back, and you've been coming for the chai often. So, other than chai, what's your favorite drink?
Apart from chai, I mean, an occasional, well, a shot of rum. Rum has always been my favorite because that's what we kind of grew up with. Rum and Coke was the favorite, yeah. And I mean, we got introduced to that. I don't remember the beer which
Dava.
is
Dava also, yeah.
Dava in Africa, and that
the
brand of beer, yeah,
which was lovely, which we had every day.
But I have respected the laws of the land in terms of it being a tri-state, and I've never kept liquor at home. Although my son, who is now based in the US, brings all the duty free, and then he checks with me, have you opened that bottle? I said, no, it's
they're still lying. Okay, thank you, Errol, for giving that information to us. Me especially. I feel lucky that I'm sitting with you today. Errol, but so that whole, you stayed with, you studied in NID, then you went to Devas to Tata Leathers and you worked there. And then they promised you to, they also wanted you to continue and they were paying you handsomely. So you chose to come back to NID at half the pay, salary. I mean, I guess in those days, money didn't matter or mattered. It depends on the situation, but half of it would be like really. So what made you come back actually?
It was, I think, a chance meeting by Mr. Ashok Chatterjee, the earlier director. And Mr. Chatterjee has this knack of catching up with you since he met you the last time, yeah? Now, here I must share that on the day of my diploma jury, after the jury, the successful jury, I would say, I was taken aside by Nelly Setna and her husband, Homi Setna, the documentary filmmaker. And they said that, we find you suitable and we would like to recommend you for the faculty training program. And I said, well, I mean, thank you very much, but I would rather you not recommend me because I will decline the offer. And very bluntly, I said this to them. It must have surprised them, but I said that the day I would like to test myself as to what I've learned. And the day I feel I can contribute something back, I'll definitely consider an offer. So 9 years later, here was this little hint being given by Mr. Chatterjee that would you like to come back? And I think it was the bus ride back to Indore was, full of thoughts that, yeah, maybe I should consider the offer. So, but then yes, I had to consider that I would have to accept half the salary, what I was getting at the Tatas, and no perks, which I was getting at the Tatas. But I think I have always been lucky that my family was always willing to accommodate within our means. Yeah. So here we were back, two kids.
When did you get married in between?
Sorry?
When did you get married in between?
Okay. I think I had to go all the way to Indore to find the partner, which is, and it started off as, I would say love at first sight, but then I had to go through the whole ritual of my mother coming and meeting the girl and her parents, and then going back and then writing a formal letter to the parents asking for the girl's hand in marriage. And all that.
What kind of letter was it?
Well, an Indian letter, a proposal. So it's I would say it was destined to be that I had to go there. And well, I was, I think, plain lucky because the girl said yes. And, getting married to this long, tall, lanky, crazy figure. And I'm sure she didn't know what a designer meant. And I think till date, she probably is still wondering what the hell I do. Yeah. But I think it was a match like Amitabh Bachchan and Jaya. There's a 1 foot difference between us. So
Did you have a bike to?
well, my motorcycle came way back when I was a student. My mother, I think, requested my sister, who was a little elder to me, to loan her the money. And in those days, a Java motorcycle at the cost of 5,000 rupees. But it was just used for transport, yeah? No fun rides at all.
No, it's good.
So then that bike went to Indore, it went to Chennai because I was on deputation for about a year in Chennai. And it came back, and then, of course, petrol prices were going up. And then I was eligible for a scooter loan. So then, from a motorcycle, I would say downgraded to a Bajaj Chetak. And the story of the motorcycle is interesting. One day, a dropout from product design came up to me and said, Errol, I want to buy this bike. Yeah, I want to do something with it. And I said, yeah, okay. And said, what's your price? I said, the same price which I bought it. I think 14 years later, now you can have it. Now, the last I saw of that bike and that dropout student is that everything was dismantled and in a gunny sack.
It's that bike.
Yeah.
Which Shweta had once, and it was there till 96 or something.
Yeah, well, not my bike. He probably had his own.
No, but there was this bike which eventually got dismantled and.
Yeah, so this boy, he showed it to me, and I guess the boy has disappeared, and I don't know if that sack of spare parts is somewhere in Paladi.
It's one of my favorite bikes. It kills me to hear that. Okay, so Errol, let's get back to this crazy trip of yours, which life takes you, and in your case, it's the braiding. Yeah, and you got on to talking about it, and I stopped you in between somewhere, but. How fortunate do you think that incident that happened with Helena asking you to go to Jaisalmer? Tell us about that trip to Jaisalmer.
Well, it wasn't Helena who told me. Helena had made a trip to Jaisalmer, and they had noticed Gitto. So Gitto suggested that to take care of my anxiety and reduce my cigarette smoking, which was on the increase, I should maybe look at camel bells. And I thought that this was the craft documentation which we as a batch never had. So I looked up a map and figured out, and of course there was, nothing in the library except a document, which was a craft documentation. But when it came to technique, the document stops. Yeah, not much of the technique details. So I went in a roundabout way from Ahmedabad to Jodhpur, to Pokhran, Pokhran to Jaisalmer. And next morning, as I was told, the craftsperson do it in the town square, in the streets. I was probably the first person in the township waiting for a craftsperson to arrive. Nothing of that sort happened. And I noticed a belt being put out for sale. And I quickly bargained, not bargained, but I negotiated a price and bought the belt. And the hope was that he would tell me where to find a craftsperson. Nothing of that sort happened. So I roamed around the township. This was my first trip to Jaisalmer. Fabulous, architecture. And at the end of the evening, I came back quite tired. And I was sitting in one corner, and the owner of this hotel, and he probably noticed my face, and he said something which was touching a wrong nerve. He said, "Sahab, aap bade udas lag rahe ho," and I nearly burst out crying. So I pointed out to the belt, and I said, I've come all the way from Ahmedabad in search of a craftsperson. I want to know more about this belt, if possible, to learn from a craftsperson. So he heard my near sob story, and he made a suggestion that if you go outside the township towards the sand dunes, which are about 55 kilometers, you just may find a craftsperson. So I said, well, if I've come so far, might as well do this trip. So the next early afternoon, I took this little bus, which was filled with, I think, thrice the capacity of what it was built. And it's one of these little buses which stop when somebody wants to get down and starts.
I know that I've been, I lived in Jaisalmer in my childhood. So I remember some used to be this place, once you get down on the road, you can't see anything because there's dunes on both the sides and there's hamlets on some sides. So you reach the hamlet somehow.
Yeah, so I reached this point where the bus stops, and I mean, you can imagine people, I thought, just disappeared into the sand, which was a little scary. And the only three people in the bus was the bus driver, the conductor, and me. And I said, there's supposed to be a Dani, which is a hamlet somewhere close by. And I was carrying the belt that I had bought. So I said, I'm looking for a craftsperson. So the conductor just pointed out to something which looked like a mirage. And I figured out from the bus driver and the conductor that the same bus would go back maybe in an hour and a half, And I did not want to be left there out in the desert, so I requested them that I'll quickly make a trip to the hamlet and come back. And reality broke. Reality hit. The first step I put into the sand off the road, and my feet were singed. Because I was wearing fancy Kolhapuri chappals. So the next thing is to sort of reach that hamlet, which was like a mirage. And having reached there, I think in record time, the next thing which I had to encounter was the Marwari dialect, which the little kids spoke. My Hindi just didn't make any sense to them. But it was sign language. I kept pointing out to the belt, and I think they just caught on. Practically, held my little finger and took me to the corner of the hamlet. And there was what I witnessed, my first, what I call the Grandmaster, all dressed in white, thick glasses, turban. And there was the eerie silence. He just probably looked up through his thick glasses and continued, snipping the goat hair from a freshly slaughtered goat. And I think a God-sent school teacher came by who became my interpreter. And we sort of requested the craftsperson to pick up the belt, which I noticed was beside him. And he started working, and I was back to square one. My 5 years of NID, my 9 years of working experience, I just didn't know what was happening. Yeah. So we had to request him to sort of work slow. But work slow, I mean, it's a little crazy thing to ask a craftsperson to work slow. They have their own pace. It's like, asking Ravi Shankar or, Pannalal Ghosh to play slow, I mean, it's like as crazy. But nevertheless, he did. And I was carrying this, micro lens, heavy duty Nikon. And this is the days of film. Digital still hadn't come in. So frame by frame, I took pictures, and I think I exhausted over 2 rolls of film, a black and white film, like an animation series. And then I gathered courage, and I said, I have to try it myself. So I asked him if I could do it. So he handed over all these, I think 50 plus set of chords and the guntani, which is a little tool. And he immediately would have realized that it was a novice which was in front of him. So he showed me how to hold it, and with, I would say, difficulty, I managed to do one line and maybe another line. And this was the time I was fascinated by the figured motifs, of peacocks and elephants and camels and cars and military jeeps and all that. But my little anxiety also was that I shouldn't miss the bus, So after doing a couple of lines, and I thought I'd, kind of broken the secret code, I gathered courage and I said, now I have to leave. And where can I buy one of these, guntanis? And I think one of my most prized moments in life, he just handed it over. And now 35 years later, when I reflect back, I think he was handing over the responsibility of carrying on this tradition to me in a way, very symbolic. I still have that tool. I think it's more precious than its weight in gold.
Errol, this is not Ishwar Singh we talk
about. No. Ishwar Singh happened... well, in between, I came back, I practiced, I developed my film, and I think the entire department, colleagues, some of the students...
You went back a year later.
Yeah, about a year later, I thought, I should make another visit. And I went back, stayed in that same ramshackle of a hotel, $30 a night. And again, I was ever grateful to that that manager, owner of the hotel. And a late night conversation, and I noticed one person sitting beside us, and he popped in and said, "Oh, you're interested in camel bells, and there's a tongue maker." And that's when I got to know that yes, there are
belts are called tongues.
Yes, yeah. In the local dialect, that's what it's called, T-A-N-G. So it was late night, so I requested this camel safari guy. I said, if you can come back in the morning and introduce me to Ishwar Singh, I'd be very grateful, which he did. And Ishwar Singh just happened to be in the opposite lane. And I think Ishwar Singh probably was convinced on day one, from moment one, that here was somebody who was keen to learn, and I wasn't just one of those tourists carrying around a camera bag. And here I would like to credit him of being my Eastern guru, and then the Western guru I would credit to Peter Collingwood, the eminent weaver from England. And Peter came, I think, a year later in 1987. And Peter and myself were looking at camel belts at the same time. Peter was gifted a belt at one of the conferences. And he somehow got to know that there was somebody on the other side of the planet, which was me. And the person who put us together was a lady from Denmark, who was Vibeke Klint, a weaver. And I got to know that several years later, when one day I just asked Peter, like, how did he happen to know that I was working on camel bells? And he said, do you remember Vibeke? And I said, yes. And then everything fell into place, because one day Vibeke just excused herself and wanted to take some pictures of me while I was at work. And I said, yeah, well, if it makes you happy, which is my standard line if somebody asks me for a photograph, if it makes you happy, why not take pictures? And of course, a lot of people promise to send pictures, which they never do. Which is okay.
So, Errol, this one beautiful thing that I really don't want to forget, and I would. You once told me 3 learnings that Ishwar Singh told you. What are those?
Yeah, Ishwar Singh, every visit repeated these 3 things, which I'd like to share with you today. Is that practice every day, and I overdid it. Even on the 26th of January 2001, when the earthquake happened, it was, I think, a set of cords in my neck which assisted me to maintain my sanity. The other thing is, he said, don't be selfish and keep this technique to yourself. Teach it to whoever shows interest, which I've been doing. No trade secrets. Anybody wants to learn, just be ready. Yeah, even the last working day of NID, Aditi wanted me to attend to a student. And of course, the student didn't turn up at 7:30 in the morning, which was my deal. If you want to learn, you better wake up earlier. And the third thing is, please don't learn this for name, fame, and money. If it's in your destiny, it will happen. And if for some reason it doesn't happen, enjoy the journey. And here I must say that, while I never paid attention whether this would, get me some dividends later, it has paid dividends, because the several invitations I've got, the last one being, a full paid trip to Iga City, Japan and back last October. It was camel bells which got me there, And I think people know me as the camel belt person, including Jack Leonard Larson. He wouldn't remember my name, but he would remember me as a camel belt person. And my breakthrough being one-of-a-kind seamless dresses has got me respect and acceptance within the Western circle of graders, which I think I feel good about, that we are no less, and being treated as an equal, I think, is a good feeling. In fact, Peter Collingwood and me were on the same platform. The organizers didn't know where to place us. Between Peter and myself, we didn't have any differences. We exchanged notes right through. His book happened, which is the techniques of fly split braiding, his last book. And all the years that, I've been fortunate enough to be with him 8 times, 6 times on Indian soil, twice being his guest. And I think he was such a genius when it came to structures. I remember on his first visit in 1987, he made, I think, 3 or 4 slide presentations of different techniques. And Peter had this ability of projecting a slide. And with minimal words, he could actually make me see a thread move. I think that expertise came to him because he was author of about 5 books already by then. So minimal words to explain. And his book on fly-spit breeding, I would say, is the Bible. But it's an over-exhaustively researched book. And I had suggested to him, I kept suggesting that he should put one chapter where it gives the reader an idea of how a little belt can be made. But he was hesitant to write that, one little chapter. He said that would make the book be one of these, how to do macrame knotting craft books. And I said, how does it matter? Because tomorrow none of us are going to be here. This technique should not remain a mystery. I offered to write that chapter under my name, and he was reluctant because his thing is, he would like to write the book alone. I said, fair enough. So now I think I've come to a stage, and then of course the motives, he just didn't make any sense to him. He said, camel and a peacock means much to you, but it doesn't mean anything to me. I'm just interested in the geometry of these structures. So I think now it's my responsibility to look at the motives. My first successful attempt was at Iga City, the 4th International Breeding Conference, where I introduced a camel motif, and very successfully, and that was a good thrill. I have handed over a Xerox copy of motifs to LLDC Museum, and I'll try and see if I can negotiate a deal.
So you're, now, so you've never sold your work?
Well,
not at least earlier, yeah.
Earlier, I got sort of very emotionally attached with every piece that I did, and frankly, there was no need to sell because I got a salary from NID, and as a family, we live within our means. Yeah, so there was a point where I went public with my work, which was a few months before I retired, 2011. Stray participation in group shows, yes. But as a one-person show, 2011, and I think the next exhibition was at Artisans with little changes on request of one of our graduates, Ravi Pari, who was prompted by Ranjan to approach me for an exhibition. She was opening a gallery, and I think it was a win-win situation for Radhi and me because her gallery was opening, and for me it was the first time going public. Yeah. But even then, I wasn't willing to sell, and I think I just came back. I mean, everything was just returned to me, and
now it is.
Then, of course, there was a 3-person show of the old and new, which was hosted by Khamir under the directorship of Meera Goradia, and the Shrujan family members, I think, noticed my work. And when Juhi Pandey, one of my graduates, took over as director, they approached her that they were interested in to acquire some of my pieces, but were a little unsure how to approach me because of my seniority. And I said, nonsense. I mean, if they...
You're 30 still.
So then, Ami Ben, we negotiated that I would give you a preview of the work, and she could select and decide what she wants for the LLDC Museum, which is a state-of-art museum. I think everybody should visit it. A museum coming up in Bhuj of that scale, I think it's worth it.
It's fantastic. I've been there.
So here I was, I put out the preview, and Ami Ben walked into the home, and she said, I want it all. And without blinking an eyelid, I said, yeah, take it up. So that was the end of conversation. Then, of course, we worked it out that her people would come. And when I say her people, one of our graduates, Zenith, works with them, I think 10 days in a month, Pune-based. Zenith engineer, one of our apparel design graduates. And they came, and I said, you just take it, and at some point I'll come to the museum and we'll sort out the technique and the price and this and that. And after 3 months, I think I managed to find some time, because since my retirement and the start of my second innings, which was 1st January 2012, I've been on the move. Yeah. I'm practically a transit passenger in my own home. Sometimes it's back to back, just a change of, fresh set of clothes, a little suitcase, and the tickets get booked in advance.
Ideally, one should rest after retirement. You actually started working and traveling a lot more.
See, I was actually very, very possessive of not sharing my worth, whatever little worth I was, with other institutions. I'll be very frank about it. I did get invitations from NIFT, and I started declining invitations for juries and this and that. But once I was sort of, the second innings, I said, well, now let the world, have access to me. And I think just about every institution wanted a workshop. It became like one, one thing leading to another, word of mouth, references. So I became visiting faculty to NIF Gandhinagar, and then Delhi, and then Kangra, and then recently at Bhopal, now a new one, which is
you go quite a bit, Jodhpur.
So, and then Pearl Academy wanted me, and Shrishti wanted me. So I just been having fun, and somebody else is paying for the tickets.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I love in life. And can you show us what you've been doing this? I mean, I didn't see when you got it and you're showing it to Rachna, but that's there's one here.
Well, okay, I'll start with what I've been keeping busy. Well, the March 25th announcement by our Prime Minister for lockdown was a big scare. Yeah, I'll be very honest about it, because our two kids are abroad, and I was kind of worried about that this is probably the end of the world. Yeah. And I think there was an overdose of watching TV and reading every line in the newspaper. And I said, no, this can't go on. And the first thing I did is step out every single morning to get a packet of milk. Yeah. And earlier I thought I would bring 5, 6, 10 packets of milk, and then the doodhwala on the corner said, no, this is not the way to deal with milk. It's available fresh every day. So make it a habit to come out every day. And I said, I think he's talking a lot of sense. So that slowly eased out the fear. And there were 3 workshops which got cancelled, which were due to happen because of the lockdown. And I said, there's lots of material sitting at home, let's get started. So I put a benchmark for myself that I'm going to make 1,000 colorful braids. So I'd like to show you some. These are which happen in about one day. There are about 12 on rings. And I want to attach maybe a copper bell in each of these rings. And I got to know from Khamir that the bell makers in Bhuj are out of business because they're 90% of metal. The bell metal business is with the US, and US is closed for them now. So I said maybe my little humble purchase from them of 1,000 bells might be handy. And I really don't know. I've done about 600 already. It's like a craze. And then a generous person who is one of the person who's learning from me, she's gifted me rings and this is Malai Dori. So if she's watching, this is what I'm converting them to.
So while we're talking to her, you've also you talk about Shubhra.
Shubhra.
So Shubhra is so you found your successor. Yeah. So
well, all these years people have been asking me, and here was this one student, graduate already, and she had never been a student of mine, but she somehow showed interest, and I think she quickly convinced me that she was serious about learning the technique, and I think she's just continued like no other student who has continued. So I think at the meeting which we had of textiles, I made a public announcement that she would be the successor, and I think she's continuing that.
Yes.
And I think I would also like that while the Western world has the Western world fiber artists, women have adapted this technique for their own utility of expression. I think it's time that an Indian and a girl cracks this as an expert and gets accepted at an international level, because they still look down a little on us. But I would say it's our technique, because this technique with such intricacy doesn't exist anywhere on this planet Earth, which is I find interesting. And then I thought that this is a bonus time, an extended vacation. So I started working on the next conference, what I would propose as a workshop, and this is the 3-dimensional application of
slightly.
Yeah, so this
This is
is
beautiful.
a
Yeah, this
helicoid
is-
structure, which my one of my disciples, I would say,
Yeah, this
Vivekanand cracked it, and I'm kind of
quite nice.
working on it. So
it's quite a beautiful one, Errol. Fantastic.
So then this will be 2022 in Denmark and most probably at Copenhagen. And this could have various applications. If you enlarge the scale, probably a little seating stool. And I would probably expect more people to participate. Last time in Niga City, because of the hurricane reaching the same time that I was reaching, I had to stop over for a day in Hong Kong. So I got a free trip to see a bit of Hong Kong. But some of the participants couldn't, sort of reach there in time. So at the 2022 fifth edition of the International Braiding Conference, I proposed to offer two workshops. One is the motive, maybe another camel or an elephant or a peacock.
Errol, how much braids do you have in the? How much of your house is covered is full of?
Well, I invested in a studio space, which is a 2-bedroom apartment with seating. I mean the hall and all that.
Separately for the braids.
Post retirement, I thought I would operate that as a studio workspace, and I would say that it's like a storage space. And I now propose. I mean, I've sort of promised myself that I would start working there because invitations just kept coming since 1st January 2012. But this pandemic, I thought I would slow down a little and maybe make myself accessible to people in Ahmedabad because most of the time, I'm missing from the city. My artist friends are always complaining that you're not visible and you're always on the move. So I think I'll get the studio space, which is in Vejalpur, Bakeri city, operational. If somebody else wants to come and learn and maybe have access to whatever little I know.
Just what all did you have to sacrifice for one technique? Like, just there are probably no sacrifices if you don't take it that way. But do you think is it easy to go on with one system, one thing? Because then nobody knows you. Because till you become a master, nobody considers you anything. For example, if I was doing button masala for the first 5 years, I always heard pagal ho gaya, matlab ek hi cheez ke ja raha hai.
Okay, lovely. I took Ishwar Singh very seriously when it said practice every day. I used to have a set of chords in my neck, and I think it became what you just said that why are you wasting your time with these chords? I think my faculty colleagues and whoever noticed that did not notice that it was a fresh set of chords and a set of chords which started freshly in my neck in the morning got completed by the time I went to bed in the night. So there were hundreds of them which happened, and it was just practicing what all could happen with the technique. Then it started getting three-dimensional, and then the first successful seamless garment happened, I would say maybe after 5-6 years. It didn't happen overnight.
So Errol, usually people ask, what can you do? Can you braid while doing something? I would want to ask the opposite, what all can you do while braiding?
Well, I can watch TV, I can have a conversation. And I think it's like, you might have seen people knitting or crocheting without even looking at the piece. I had to train myself. So, and I was very fascinated by the school for the blind, where we had visited when we were students. Like, how do they weave and how do they notice a broken thread and how do they locate that broken thread, tie back the broken thread, and continue to weave? I trained myself. I would sit in the lawn in the Eames Plaza, and with the fading sunlight, you had nothing else but touch, And then I fine-tuned that with sitting on the last, seats of the auditorium. You watch a movie, and then there's some stray light which comes where you can quickly look that no mistake is happening. But yes, I've come to a stage where it's the touch. Which can work.
And should we show
please.
I'm going to share the pictures and of Sajid. Can I share the screen? Yeah, I can.
Yeah, you can share the screen.
I hope I'm making sense.
No, because for this there was so much silence. No, I mean, don't even know that if we made any sense all this while. Some noise would be nice. So, I mean, Errol, I put this picture specifically because I've never seen long, nails this long. Would you like to show it?
In the Zoom call, so I thought it looked like I was listening.
Well, I started off by learning with the
Some
Guntani.
conference going on,
And then one point I figured out that what was that Guntani doing?
Suddenly they asked
And
a
it was
question.
nothing
I
but
said, oh shit.
in the pod. So then I just sort of, stopped trimming my nails, and then these worked as portable tools.
Yeah.
Well, occasionally they do crack up and break, but then I think they grow back. So at this point, they're quite sort of grown, and I think everybody notices that it's a very nice way to have portable tools. Yeah, nobody can sort of run away with them.
It's quite a long one. Yeah, it's actually quite long. So yeah, Errol. So I mean, this is Errol, young, handsome, Java driving, riding. How many girls fell for you in those days?
Well, I was friends with all the girls, no one in special, and the reason was very clear that I didn't want to promise anybody the moon, until I was, able to take care of myself. So I think it was very envious position to be in, because all the boys always wondered that, how are any other girls willing to come along with you to a movie, a late night movie? And I said, see, if your intentions are honorable and clear, I think the girl can sense it. Yeah.
I'm sure people were jealous. I was always jealous. I can tell you, all the guys on the screen were jealous when they say Ellen is raising a hand. So I'm sure people lined around your cabin ki kaun aaya. No, but you were always. So this is Errol.
This was a photo shoot which Avinash Pasricha, the well-known photographer from Delhi, and he was, I think, a chief photographer for the Span magazine. And they were doing an issue, a cover story with, designers of tomorrow. So this is on a swing which used to be in this corridor. It disappeared during the flood and never came back. And right in front of me was the late Dan Karkaria.
Oh, that's done.
Yeah. Oh. And Avinash wanted a picture of somebody to sit on the swing, and we volunteered. And I think it is quite a symbolic shot of the earlier days. The lower one is Deepak Bhai and Rajiv Gautam, who was the animation graduate, sent it to me sometime back when Deepak Bhai passed away. And I think he was trying to sort of capture the black of my hair and the white of Deepak. So thank you, Rajiv. Then, this was 1979 when I found my better half. Seema is her name. And we had a sort of Christian marriage in the church. So she was all dressed up. And then the veil I had to bring back all the way from England, where I'd gone for my training. It costed me a bomb. Yeah, but she still has looked after it. And I guess, every bride wants to look after her sort of gown and veil and all that.
And that's you in.
And then, that's several years later. This was, I think, on the last trip to Disney, the US.
Where Dennis is.
Where my son Dennis is, and daughter is in Delaware, which is a 2.5 hour flight away.
I mean, I must tell you, but Dennis was a fantastic sportsman. When I used to play cricket with him.
Well,
he was a cricketer.
He still is.
He runs, and he's very fit, and he kind of overshadows you in the size and hair. So that's the one on the top is your
my daughter and son-in-law. And a strange thing about son-in-law, he used to come to the cricket field, but had never met daughter. Yeah. Okay. We were on the campus.
I think I've seen the guy now. I mean, I remember seeing him.
No, he used to come to play cricket.
Together,
but daughter and met him. They met across in the 7 seas in America. And I think between son and daughter, I think there was a Batwara right from the beginning. Son is very close to mother, and daughter is very close to me. So when she came up that she's met this girl, a boy, and all that, and I said, yeah, that's all very well. But when you all both have firmly decided, then we'll carry on the conversation. At the moment, you continue your studies, and then a point of time came that they got married. So the marriage happened, both the marriages happened within a month. Daughter's marriage in America, son's marriage in Ahmedabad. And all within a month, everything went, like clockwork. So I think my wife and me are qualified wedding planners, and it's in case anybody requires our services. And this is by a rare occasion where I wore a suit.
Yeah, I've never seen you. I've always seen you in a denim and a shirt.
Well, on the top left is my teacher, Guru Ishwar Singh, who was a peon in the collector's office. I guess you guys know what a peon is, something the British left back with us, shuffling papers from one officer's table to another. And the view of the Jaisalmer city. And on the right is my teacher, Helena, who was the late Helena Perintupa, who was from Finland. And Helena was like a mother to us. And I think she had all kids wanting her attention at the same time. And it came full circle. At a point, belts which she had noticed along with a group which went to Jaisalmer, she wanted to learn the technique and she did start. Yeah.
No, but just reminds me that Ishwari Singh is no more. Helena is no more.
Yeah.
And we spoke last time about Ranjan.
Yeah.
And then you told me something about that, not being there, like
Ranjan's sudden demise, one took it for granted he would be there the next morning and the next morning. And one morning, I think it was probably a Sunday, and I was in the Central Mall and I get a phone call that, Ranjan has been taken in an ambulance. And I said, this sounds serious, yeah. So we, because earlier also he was unwell, but yeah, he got a checkup and came back. But, somebody being taken in an ambulance was not so good news. So we located that he was taken to this hospital, and seeing him no more was a wake-up call that anything could happen to any of us at any time, and we should be prepared for it. And I think the wake-up call was that we have to settle all our own goodies, because not leave it to the family or to others to settle our goodies. So that's the time I decided that I would part with what I have in terms of artifacts which I've made, the books which I have greedily, I would say, accumulated, because we had a book allowance and I didn't want the book allowance to lapse. And I must honestly confess, some of the books have not even been opened. Yeah, so I think they should deserve to reach deserving libraries or maybe deserving individuals and be put to some use. And one would like to reach a stage where they just bear 4 bare walls and a ceiling. Yeah.
This is so Errol has been obsessed with peacocks, yeah. And I mean, this is one of Errol and peacock and can't.
But you can see it somehow shows up in the work later, yeah. I mean, you can see the greens there.
Yeah.
So I think there's this, I think 3 or 4 peacocks which appeared every season, and I would have taken hundreds and thousands of pictures. Yeah, this was, I couldn't resist. I said I need to take a picture.
Like these guys take pride in being taller, and you like to overshadow them. Like when you look at this picture, you look bigger. Also, the way I took the picture, this is in Kenya outside a museum. But this is how your cabin used to look. If you obsessed with objects, look how. What do you do with all these things? Where are they?
That's what I said. That two-room apartment that I've taken, which is meant to be that's like a storage space. I mean, 129 works have.
It's a museum. Like we couldn't find you. Like you could have been easily hiding with somebody there. You would never know. So Errol is, from my point of view, Errol is like when he does something, you keep doing. So he has thousands of pictures. This, the first one is of
the interlaced
palm leaves. How it happened. So he has thousands of. How many pictures you would have of those?
I actually have.
How many pictures you have in total?
I have lost track. Actually, this is another part which I should share. That I've been taking pictures in 1970. If somebody were to look at all the negatives and make them into prints and maybe make them into a slideshow or projection, they could relive my life. So I think, having gone public with my textile work, I think now it's come I think, a high time and green grass to go public with my photographs.
Yeah, you should, Errol.
Yeah.
Lots of people keep wondering, what does Errol do? He takes pictures, but what is there in the picture? So Errol is experimental. I always thought Errol would not do anything. So I convinced him to do a braid when we went to Kenya. So that's the one in the left corner. And then I also made him wear wigs. And so that's his many faces. Where in third, you do pretty much look like Himadri Ghosh. In the second, you look like... I mean, can't even figure out who do you look like. And the first, of course, you've been done something. And Errol has been always surrounded by people. So this is Errol's fan club.
What I noticed now is that people want to meet me. They want to come and thank me. I think it's been full circle. While they were here, they're probably so busy in themselves that now they've kind of settled a little in life. I get requests that, we would like to come and meet you. And I said, well, if I'm in town, definitely we can meet up and have a chai. And of course, then, the world...
You always have these... I always meet you and say, this one is coming to Ahmedabad. I am meeting him at 7 o'clock. This one is coming. I'm meeting her at 7 in the morning. This is unfair. You meet up people at 7 in the morning when others like us can't even wake up. So it's not fair. Start meeting in the afternoon. We can also join in.
Yeah.
So these are all the... those are African. He was quite popular with African women when I went with him also. So who, like, you've been traveled all across the world. Where are the most beautiful girls in the world?
Like I told you, Anuj, I think it's back in India.
It's back in India. That's fantastic. And who's this lady?
Well, the lady in front of me is the late Lotika Varadarajan, who was a textile historian. And I would like to remember and thank her. She was instrumental in getting my guru the national award, way back in 1986. She was part of the final committee which decided the national awards in Delhi along with Mrs. Kukul Jaikar. And she brought the attention of Mrs. Jaikar to Ishwar Singh's piece. And Mrs. Jaikar, of course, said, okay.
And on the right is the?
The right is the Queen Mother of Bhutan. In 2011, I gifted a piece, 2 pieces of my work. The other piece was gifted to the little princess who had just got married. So I guess it's somewhere in their private palace.
These are 2 illustrations. One is...
Alan actually, always wanted to do something, maybe a drawing or watercolor of my office space, which was full of braids. I think he missed that opportunity. And this is what he did when he was doing a book on Ahmedabad and watercolors.
And the one
on the left is Dimant, who is the animation expert.
Panchal,
not Panchal. Dimant Vyas, the animation graduate, who's now based. And it's incredible. I really don't know when Dimant was observing me or, but he's got it all very correct.
This is the late 80s or something?
No, I think there's a date somewhere.
No, it's not in there, but early 90s.
And my hair was much shorter, and then the little hump on my back, and the little paunch belly, and the tight
you cut your hair ever?
Well, we went to the other extreme. We removed it all.
Oh, you went to... And this is Errol's gang, Errol...
Well, 3 of us have got quite close. Nayak and myself share the same birthday, which is December 1st. Jogi was my batchmate, and now the Jogi has relocated to Ahmedabad. We practically meet up every morning for a cup of chai as soon as the lockdown was unlocked. And down below, with the symbol in the background, is our 50th year celebration. We joined NID 22nd June 1970, when none of you guys were even born. So we wanted, and more of the Ahmedabad-based graduates wanted to come, but we weren't granted permission to enter the premises because of this corona problem.
So this is the whole batch, apparently, almost.
Well, not whole batch. There are 6 students and 2 faculty members. Mr. P.M. Dalwadi and J. Panchal insisted that it was a special day, and in spite of the age factor, Panchal Sahab is 79, Dalwadi Sahab is 80. They just wanted to be in the picture.
And this is during the corona time they met.
22nd. This picture is 22nd June.
Fantastic. What a spirit, Errol. What a spirit.
No, we wanted to have a picture in the Eames Plaza and the victory at the GG Square, but permission wasn't granted, so we said anyway, we'll just have.
This is good enough. This is perfect. And then this is
And well, being part of growing up in the '60s, I was always fascinated by Andy Warhol, and my first. My second trip to America, I think I saw Andy Warhol original works, and I think that man has inspired me, continues to inspire me, and I'm sure all of you are familiar with his Campbell soup cans.
Okay. And that's fantastic. I don't know how to thank you. And of course, there must be lots of questions. A lot of people who would like to ask questions. And
yeah, please.
Anuj, just before the question, I'm going to move spotlight to someone who's done the illustration for Errol. So Alan is going to do a thank you note for today.
Okay, Errol, thank you so much for taking us through your journey, and thank you, Anuj. For me, Errol taught me a little bit for basic material when I was in foundation, but very much like Anuj, I grew I started talking to Errol much after I graduated. And there are things that one learns from Errol. I would just say that I call him the monk at the main gate, because I come what may, I go there at 7 in the morning and I find him there. And we have teachers. We've had the privilege of having teachers like Ranjan and all the teachers. They have influenced us immensely. But what I've picked up from Errol. Although he was not my teacher, I don't even do any braiding, but this consistency, getting up in the morning, being there, it's just like, I almost feel guilty if I don't go in the morning when I'm in Ahmedabad. These are the things that I've learned from you, sir. I mean, I would take the liberty of calling you sir, because that's how it is. The respect comes with the work, and it comes with what one has experienced along with you. You've been a part of my journey in a very big way, right from my first exhibition in Ahmedabad to to the very recent ones. We keep and you pushed me into exhibitions like, for example, Alias Fosse. I was not going to have an exhibition there, but you kind of pulled the strings or chords and made it happen. I would like to tell a story. Just correct me if I've gotten it wrong, but when Errol was being interviewed for NID, he was asked this question: so what does your father do? You know what his answer was? He said, why don't you ask me what does my mother do? And these are very small things that is about this man. And I continue to learn from this man every day, every time I meet him. And I would just like to thank you for being him for being what he is. And small things like, talked about photography. There is one story which he told me, which is very personal. He doesn't develop his film roles that he has shot. But when his daughter got married, he did. He went and dug into the old archives, found the negatives, printed them. Nobody had seen these pictures before, and what a wonderful gift. And so thank you for what you are, and you inspire us like nobody does. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Alan.
Just one more last thing, Sajid. I forgot to play the audios that 4 people have sent, and Errol has to guess who's these voices. I'm just not going to take much time.
You have to guess that cough.
Yeah.
Just spending time with us, showing us the different color combinations and the. Hi, Errol. Thank you so much for all the feedback you've been giving us on our different projects, and also, just spending time with us, showing us the different color combinations and the techniques with your split ply braiding. It's been fantastic. You've been a very important part of our design journey.
Hi, it is really nice catching up with you about 2 years back at the main gate, having tea with you and chatting. It just took me back to my first time that I met you in my interview panel, and
Yeah, correct. That's
you
so
suddenly
one is
got
right.
out of
Correct.
First one I
uh,
did.
your seat and said, "It's too boring," and you just left the room. And later, you encouraged me.
Okay, so should we go to the next one? Okay, there's an error. That's just one more. At least we can. You can.
When I suddenly receive an old book, rare book of birds, I know it's from Errol. When I suddenly
okay.
get a
That's why he's got
beautiful
guessed it.
old
Because she gave me.
beadwork artifact from a thelawala outside an ID, I know it is from Errol. And I think he's like a connector of dots, a teacher who always fuels ambitions and projects, and he's always motivating, and he's a person to whom you can just openly share your teaching woes and get words of wisdom. Thanks, Errol, for always being there.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome,
And one
welcome.
last one, Errol. Just last one, so that you can probably.
The first one I said that yes.
Sorry, her first one is still to be. Somehow it's not playing. Let's see.
Errol, while you appeared meditatively immersed in braiding, it's fascinating how switched on you actually were to not only the events around you, but also what was going on deep down in people's hearts. I remember one time I had a complete mind freeze during our interiors project, and Aditi, worried as she was
Anjali,
she asked you how she should shake me out of this funk. And you just asked her to give me time. And sure enough, within a week, my prototype was done and I got a miraculous complete in the first go. So you always heard me out patiently and you really understood people. Lots of love to you, Errol.
Thank you.
Hi, Errol. Thank you so much for all
This
the
one
feedback you've been giving us.
That's that Ashwini Vaidya.
Ah,
Okay, so that's 3 out of 4. That's not bad, Errol. Not bad. Okay, thank you. Over to you, Sajid.
So the idea for getting faculty onto these sessions, Errol, was two things. One is a lot of us don't know about their past. We just know the maths faculty and we interact with them. And I just want to thank Anuj for the homework and the background work, because there's a lot which goes behind the sessions. Most of you see the sessions as it is, but the host does a lot of homework. We try and make it as informal, and the success of this format really is the comfort level of the host and the person who's speaking. So Anuj, thanks a lot for all the effort. He's gone multiple times. They've spent time to get to know and help us to understand Errol. And the second objective is to thank you guys. I mean, and from these messages, and you can see the chat and stuff also, Errol, that there's so many lives you've touched. It need not just be the textile students. And you've been a friend throughout for everybody. You can walk over, connect with you. You're the one person who's on Facebook, sending comments, messages. So thanks a lot for being who you are. So the objective of this session was these two things: to get to know you better and to thank you. So thank you, Anuj, for managing both of those. An amazing session, and thank you so much.
I would like to thank you, Sajid, for having initiated and started this, and it's happening very regularly. Although I don't tune in when most of them are happening, but I see them later, and I think it's great, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. And announcement is the next one, the next speaker is Anuj himself. So Anuj is going to be the speaker. We've got him on board, and from braiding we move to buttons. I don't know if you noticed, Anuj, your the title for your screen for both of you is braid and button. Change that. So next is Anuj, and the person who's going to be hosting Anuj is Rahul Ajmera. So he's going to be working with Anuj to get to know more about him. So and somebody messaged on this thing. Heman just messaged. It's true. This whole the beauty of the session is really it's like a reunion, and you're seeing on screen people from different batches. There are people who have just passed out. There are people who've passed out much earlier, and the idea is to make it like a reunion, and that's the best part of this. And there's a lot of people who are watching FB Live. People can't get off and come on to these calls, but I mean, most of these videos are going up to 600, 700 views on Facebook, and then after they're putting it up on YouTube also. So thank you everybody for taking out time and coming for this.
All the best. Thank you.
Now he's going to spot